No matter what it is, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you want that girl, no matter how much you want to explode and become super popular on YouTube, no matter how much you want whatever the success is, you want to make $10 million a month doing Amazon FBA or TikTok shop, being a real estate agent or selling solar, whatever it is that no matter how much you want it, most of the time, it's still not going to work. Biggest cheat code that I'm going to give you in this whole video is to find mentors. These mentors could be dead or alive, and you can meet these mentors in real life or not. One of the greatest way to meet a mentor who's maybe not alive anymore is through books. There's an idea in evolutionary psychology, or in psychology in general, called the banker's dilemma. And the way the banker's dilemma works is the people who are the most likely to need you to loan them money are actually the worst people to pay back the money. And the people who are the least likely to need money from you are actually the best people to loan money to because they're the most likely to pay you back. That's how the world looks at status. Some of you worship at church. Most of you worship at the altar of worthless people and their worthless opinions. I am walking down Hollywood Boulevard. I cannot tell you, while I'm walking here, how many people are just staring at me like, who is this f***ing asshole walking around with an Osmo filming himself? Like, what kind of arrogant piece of crap is walking around filming himself on Hollywood Boulevard? What's going on, guys? It's Michael Sartain, and I am on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You can tell that it's the Hollywood Walk of Fame because you can smell all the urine and see all the crime out here. Guys, the reason why I wanted to make this video is you guys know my love-hate relationship with Los Angeles. I just thought it'd be a cool idea to walk out here to Runyon Canyon and make a video about this, because one of the things that kind of hit me in the last couple days is how, and I've talked to a lot of guys who've gone through this too, is how discouraging it is a lot of times whenever you try something new and you don't have a ton of success with it. So this could be with business. Maybe some of you guys, like we're in Hollywood right now, maybe some of you guys wanted to be an actor or a performer. Maybe you started a social media channel or a YouTube channel and you didn't get a ton of views initially. Maybe you've been posting on there for a long time and you don't get a ton of views. You know, guys, remember I just did a video in front of an aircraft carrier, the USS Theodore Roosevelt back in San Diego. And one of the analogies I like to use is the idea of throwing pebbles at an aircraft carrier. That's what it's like in the beginning. And pretty much for anything that you want to be successful at. Part of the reason why anything you want to be successful at, let's just say you want to be a fitness model, or some kind of content creator, or you want to get into finance, or whatever it is, one of the reasons why it's so hard in the beginning is because everybody wants those jobs. Everybody wants the really cool job where you get a ton of notoriety and a ton of money, and so you have to compete with other people, especially in something like acting, or content creation, or some shit like that. You always have to compete with other people. So it's always gonna be hard. And so a lot of times when I talk to the guys who are in Men of Action, one of the things I say is in the beginning, when you start throwing some of these events, it's gonna feel like throwing pebbles at an aircraft carrier. Because in the beginning, you are gonna have some trouble. Now, here's the other thing, and I'm skipping way ahead here, but if you guys read Hustle Harder by 50 Cent, again, I wanted to walk through Hollywood so you guys could see. There's still people out there who think that Hollywood is like beautiful, like you walk around and there's all these hot blondes in one-piece bikinis walking around that are beautiful and shit. I wanted you to understand that walking through Hollywood is basically the same thing as walking through downtown Baltimore. It is scary as fuck here. Do not walk through Hollywood with a Rolex on. Just trust me on this one. Anyway, so going back to what we were saying before, some of you guys, you're trying things and you're not getting a ton of results in the beginning. And it's discouraging to you because you're kind of hoping, you know, hey, I took this course, it was gonna teach me Amazon FBA, or it's gonna teach me to become an actor. Sorry, it's a little loud right here. Give me 1 second. Got some dogs. We're gonna go in front of Man's Chinese Theater here in a second, so you guys can see all the madness here. I think it's kind of perfect that I'm doing this video here because like Hollywood is sort of the home of broken dreams for the entire planet. So many people come here with the idea of just becoming famous and rich, and they end up getting hit with a stark reality that smells like pee. All right, so going back to what we said before. Now, you're sitting there, you're going through life, and you're having a hard time because you try stuff and you're not having results. You've been posting on YouTube for years. You've been doing a podcast. It hasn't really turned any clients for you. Hopefully it's something that you love doing. and you're not really getting the results that you want. Like I said before, it feels like throwing pebbles at an aircraft carrier. But what happens, and again, let me skip ahead here. In 50 Cent's book, when he talks about hustle harder, one of the things he says is, when I didn't have any money, nobody wanted to loan me any money. It's really important you guys understand, because we're gonna go over this concept of what's called status poverty. When I didn't have any money, nobody wanted to loan me any money. He said the first time that I had $1 million in a bank account, the next guy wanted to loan me $3 million. Casey Zander has a saying, he goes, hungry mouths don't get fed. It's true. When you look like you need a favor, you look like, this is, there's an idea in evolutionary psychology, or in psychology in general, called the banker's dilemma. And the way the banker's dilemma works is the people who are the most likely to need you to loan them money are actually the worst people to pay back the money. And the people who are the least likely to need money from you are actually the best people to loan money to, because they're the most likely to pay you back. That's how the world looks at status. So again, when you're trying to become a famous actor and you're trying to get in a movie, the people who are already famous, who don't really need any more clout, are the ones you're most likely to hire for the movie. And the people who are starving artists, who really need that role, are the least likely ones for you to hire for the movie. So it's like, how do you get across this status poverty line? And the answer is, sorry man, I wish I could give you something more creative, something more cute, something more clever. But the answer is consistency, man. It really is consistency. It's the ability to take feedback. It's the ability to subvert your expectations, not your expectations, but your ego, your ability to find mentors, your ability to look for clues of success and just follow those clues. So what a lot of people do is, you know, they'll sit there and they'll try the same thing a couple of times, and when they get feedback from somebody who knows what they're talking about, they won't take the feedback. They'll be like, dog, you don't know what you're talking about. Or they're really bad at finding, they're really bad at finding mentors who actually know what they're talking about. Here's the Hollywood Wax Museum here. They're really bad at finding mentors. So I want you to consider what I'm saying. In a previous video, I talked about this, how you guys worship at the altar of worthless people and their worthless opinions. Some of you worship at church. Most of you worship at the altar of worthless people and their worthless opinions. I am walking down Hollywood Boulevard. I cannot tell you, while I'm walking here, how many people are just staring at me like, who is this f***ing asshole walking around with an Osmo filming himself? Like, what kind of arrogant piece of crap is walking around filming himself on Hollywood Boulevard? But I don't care about what other people think about me. Hold on, neither does this guy. Go get it, go get it, go get it. There we go, got the Osmo.
The Osmo sort of like a 360. On the mic, yeah, you know that we nifty. So what it be when we rocking in the city and we scorching? I'm falling like the homies Jordans. Yeah, he got the Jordans with the gold in it. When I'm on the mic, you see the flow, man, we living. This is what it is and how I got it freestyle. Meanwhile, see the vibe, real live, you ain't seen now. I gotta come up on the top of the beat. Real live, man, you already know I'm hot with the heat. What's going on? Oh yeah, he really got me on the camera. When I'm on the mic, man, I really start to damage y'all. Hey, that was hot outside. That's why he got the sleeveless. Rhymes, I really need this. Alright, I'm not squeamish. I get nothing.
I like it.
I'm bumping to the speaker each minute, Alright, man, so that was the test.
Alright, so listen, check it out. You see this guy over here? Like, he doesn't give a about what other people think about him. He's out here freestyling on the corner. He's at Highland and Hollywood, and he's trying to make it. By the way, that dude is talented. That dude is more talented than 99% of guys I've ever try to rap. And the thing I would tell him is what I would tell you. If you know that you have a talent to do something like, to pull something like that off, it's going to be consistency. It's going to be collaborations. It's going to be clips. Like, you're going to have to do the things that work, which is a lot of, like, for him, I would recommend a lot of social media clips to show like the efficacy of what he's doing. It's going to be social proof. It's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to be a lot of days where he's going to get on by people who don't really who don't believe in him. You know, it's just one of these situations where it's like you got to keep pushing no matter what the world kind of gives you as far as feedback. So it's very difficult because sorry man, it's really distracting because now I'm in front of Man's Chinese Theater, the subway, and so there's just like all these actors and stuff around here. So a lot of people, they'll get disappointed. So I'll tell you what happened to me today. I'm gonna tell you another story. Another story that just happened to me. I went online this morning, and by the way, guys, put a 1 in the chat if this has ever happened to you. You go online and you see a lot of people who look like they're doing better than you. You see a lot of people who look like they're having success, and maybe some of them are younger than you, they're better looking than you. Maybe you've been grinding at your job, whatever it is, for like 20 years, and there's some kid who's like in his early 20s, and he's crushing it. He's doing so much better than you are. Maybe you're like me, you've been on YouTube for like a long time, maybe almost like a decade, and then you see these other guys who've been on YouTube for like a couple years and they have millions of followers. And it makes you feel bad about yourself. It makes you feel like, man, maybe there's some girl that you've been trying to talk to for years, and then there's some guy who shows up and he gets that girl like immediately when he meets her. You've been putting in all this work. Maybe you've been in the gym for years, and some guy comes in there and he already has better gains than you, and he barely put in any work. Put a 1 in the chat if you ever felt like that, where like somebody didn't put up as much work as you, but they seem to be having so much more success, and it makes you feel bad about yourself. So you get discouraged, man, because you see some streamer who's making $500,000 a month, and this guy just started, he's like 19 years old. You get discouraged because you see that girl on OnlyFans who made $43 million in a year, and she had one client give her $4.7 million. Bro, you know how happy I'd be if I had one client give me $4.7 million? Like, it's crazy. So when you see that, do you get discouraged? Well, I want to let you know something. I get discouraged too. I mean, like, when I look at all these people on YouTube who've been doing it not as long as me, of course I get discouraged. I find myself scrolling. Man, look at this. I look at the guy, like how many likes and comments he gets. I find myself falling into this trap. So guys, here we are. We're at the Chinese Theater now. That was the Dolby Theater back there.
You're telling me it's crazy for 20 minutes. Yeah. I know that.
Having a conversation with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ right here, and Darth Vader. Cool, just good to see you guys. All right, beautiful. See, this is what I'm talking about. These guys woke up this morning and they don't give a shit about what other people think about them. They're like, we're gonna have success no matter what. See what I'm saying? Yes, exactly, that's what I'm saying. These guys right here, they're dressed up as security guards. See, you guys can tip them if you want, you know what I'm saying? They perform here, security guards. But apparently this is some kind of Hollywood, he did not look happy. He looked a little annoyed when I said that. Here we go, hold on, here we go. We're gonna repent and believe in Jesus.
When are you coming next time?
Jesus Christ.
My friend.
My friend.
Jesus Christ, the Lord loves you. Jesus Christ.
Again, it's like there's two different lessons going on here. Hollywood is the place where people get their dreams crushed, and at the same time, I'm just surrounded by people right here in front of the theater that do not give a shit about what other people think about them. Like, here's the wax statues right here. Like this guy's on the ground right here. He probably has like 10 million followers on TikTok, and you don't. Oh, look, the little marble thing. That's pretty cool. I like this. All right, so going back to what I said, maybe you have this feeling inside where you're like, man, these people are so much more successful than me, and I put in all this work. And the reality of the situation is, there's a couple things going on here. There's a little bit of luck that goes into becoming that level of famous. And I know this from a fact because it's just like when you started. Like, for instance, if Jake and Logan Paul, maybe they don't start on Vine when Vine is on its upward trend, because Vine eventually fell off. If they don't start on, it's same thing with like King Batch. If they don't start on Vine at the right time and get lucky with the right content, then that doesn't start their trajectory to become more and more famous. What happens with Chris Williamson if he doesn't get picked, for that reality show? I'm not telling you these people wouldn't be famous otherwise. What I'm saying is there is a little bit of luck that's involved with a lot of these different things. And then there's also opportunity. Think about the situation with like Joe Rogan becoming the biggest podcaster in the world. What did he have? What were the tools that he had available to him? Where he worked with UFC. You guys know he was an announcer for the UFC for free for years, right? He was a comedian. So he started off with getting a lot of comedians and UFC fighters to come on his show. He used what he had. A lot of people, and that was what his expertise is. He also had a lot of friends from the acting industry because, he was an actor. He was on a news radio. I think that was the name of the show. This is the LA Fitness I used to go to when I lived here. Bro, you want to talk about disappointing? Come out to Hollywood and go to some of these gyms and you will see 99% dudes. So like, it is there are no attractive women that hang out in Hollywood, period. So now you're sitting there and you have to come to the realization, like, what am I elite at that I can do? And then can I be consistent enough in the beginning when everything sucks and nobody wants to hear anything that I'm saying? And when I get criticism, when I get a little bit of criticism from people who don't care, you saw that madness back there? Like, we're just a block away and then like all the madness is gone. Like, you can still see the stars. Well, like all the madness is gone. We're like in a different part of Hollywood right now. You can see, you can ask yourself, am I able to do something? So let's go over a couple things for this checklist. Number one, do you have an expertise or something that you're excellent at, that you know you could be excellent at? And this could be anything from, you know, advanced mathematics to being a rapper. What is the problem that you can solve for other people that you're elite at, okay? Number two, do you have some mentors that you can look to that can help you level up? One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is that they think they can do all of this by themselves. Success leaves clues. And one of the things that makes the Homo sapien species so unique is our ability to pass down stories from generation to generation. It was Albert Einstein who said, you know, if I'm great, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And he was talking about Johannes Kepler and Galileo Galilei, and he was talking about James Clerk Maxwell, and he was talking about Isaac Newton. He was talking about standing on the shoulders of giants. And so the reality is, every great actor that you see today, they mimicked and looked at great actors previous, or, you know, even like The Rock probably looked at stuff that Hulk Hogan did, right? Like, you realize these, you watch Tom Brady, he probably looked at stuff that Joe, I know he was a 49ers fan growing up, he probably looked at stuff that Joe Montana did. It wasn't that this greatness just sprung out of nowhere. This greatness comes from you watching other people. So a lot of times people have this big ego and they're like, okay, I want to become famous, I want to become successful, but I want to do it my way. And they won't subvert their ego to learn from other people. The biggest cheat code that I'm going to give you in this whole video is that to find mentors. These mentors can be dead or alive, and you can meet these mentors in real life or not. One of the greatest way to meet a mentor who's maybe not alive anymore is through books. I'd highly recommend you guys read like the biography of Steve Jobs, someone like that. Or, you know, you guys are probably never going to meet Elon Musk. Maybe you will, but a lot of you, most of you are never going to meet him. He's got 2 biographies out. Read those biographies. Meet your favorite actor, your favorite rapper, whoever. Learn as much as you can. I'm reading right now I'm reading the biography of Pimp C, who was my favorite rapper growing up from UGK. And there's not a lot for my business that I'm learning about this, but this guy gave himself so much permission, and he had so many things going against him, and he turned into what I believe is one of the most influential rappers of all time. He wasn't one of the most famous rappers of all time, but there's so many people who credit, especially in the South, the way they rap to Pimp C from UGK. And so like reading his biography and seeing the level of permission that he gave himself has just been very inspiring to me. And I'm never going to meet Pimp C because he died in 2007. He died just over here, I believe in Hollywood. He died, or in Beverly Hills. So you have to ask yourself, number one, do you have a talent that you can do that you know you could be elite at? And then number two, can you find mentors that can help you skip several levels? Now here's the big one, right? Here's the hard one. Here's the weird, uncomfortable conversation that you have when you go home for Thanksgiving, when you're sitting there trying, you're like, hey mom, I've decided I'm gonna be an artist. Hey mom, I'm gonna be an actor. Hey mom, I decided I'm gonna be a rapper. Hey mom, I decided I'm gonna drop out of school and I'm gonna sell Amazon FBA. Hey mom, I decided I'm gonna be a YouTube content creator and I quit my job. You know, or maybe it's not your mom you're having this conversation with. Maybe it's your wife or your girlfriend you're having this conversation with. When you have this conversation, here's the hard part, guys. Are you gonna stand strong, or are you going to worship at the altar of worthless opinions? When I say worthless people and their worthless opinions, I don't mean that those people are worthless, but I mean in this context they are. So are you gonna stay strong and stand by your convictions and take that chance, or are you gonna listen to worthless people and their worthless opinions? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, especially if you come from a background where, let's say, your parents are first-generation immigrants. A lot of times, there's a great book on this. The book is The Millionaire Next Door. I think this is where it was in this book. But they talk about first-generation immigrants. They come to this country and then they open up like a nail salon, or they open up like a tire shop or something like that, and they grind just to make a bunch of money. And the first thing they want to do is get their kids into like a vocation. They try to tell their kid, you know, like the Indian parent who wants his child to be a doctor, like stuff like that, because they don't want their kids to go through the same turpitudes And they don't want their kids to go through the same ups and downs and variants as they did. So they want their kids to play it safe. So now here you are, you know, let's say your parents are first generation from Iran, or they're from India, or they're from Mexico, or some other place. My mother was from Colombia. And then you start telling them, hey, you know, I want to be a content creator. And your mom's like, no. Content creator? No. We already discussed this. You're going to be a lawyer. We discussed this. You're going to be an accountant. We talked about where your life was going to go. So when that happens, when that conversation happens, are you going to stand up, or are you going to say, hey, you know what? I tried making some YouTube videos, and when I tried to make them, I didn't immediately get success. I bought this program where they said I was going to get success guaranteed if I just did these 5 things in my video, and for whatever reason, I'm not doing so well. Are you going to stay the course and keep it pushing, or are you going to give up because things get hard? So when you have that uncomfortable conversation with the people in your life, who, by the way, they care about you, they love you, when you have that uncomfortable conversation with them, are you going to stay with what you want to do? Hey, you know what? I've decided I'm going to drop out of school, and all I care about is making money. So I took a course on social media marketing, and my mom's going to tell me I need to stay in school. Are you going to stay in school, or are you going to stay by your convictions? And by the way, I'm not sitting here, I'm not like these other content creators who tell you to don't go to school. If you got school paid for, if it's not breaking you, if you're not doing one of these things where you're paying $200,000 to get some kind of art degree where you're never going to make that money back, that's stupid. I don't want you to do that. But if you are one of these people who are like legitimately, I mean, college is a great networking opportunity. Obviously, it's very different from my generation. I'm a Longhorn, hook 'em horns. For my generation, like, college was about networking, it was about bragging rights, it was about parties, it was about fun. Like, for me, there's so many things I learned from college, but they didn't come from a classroom. They came from like networking, they came from meeting other people, they came from seeing social hierarchies, they came from learning about women, like all those things I learned in college. So I'm gonna tell you, like, all the stuff where everybody's like, college is bad. If it's a situation where you're going to a university and it's not breaking you financially, or if you got accepted into like a really nice school like Harvard, I'm not going to tell you to not go to college. You can still go to college. All right, so now you've made the decision. Are you willing to stand by your decision, or are you going to let your parents or your girlfriend or someone like that talk you out of this decision you made? And here's the thing, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I got to go back one step. And I've talked about this in other videos. When I ask you, is your goal realistic? What I don't mean by like realistic, like, I don't believe in you. What I'm asking you is, do you have a goal to do something where someone's already done it and you just didn't realize? One of the things I try to recommend to people to do is, let's say you want to become a pickup coach right now in 2024. Well, a couple things you're going to find out is, number one, there's already tens of thousands of pickup coaches out there. And number two, a lot of the pickup coaching content has already been taken off of YouTube. So this would be what I would consider a field that's already flooded, right? It's funny because I'm literally, I'm in the neighborhood kind of where Owen lives. And it's like, when you consider what the career that he created for himself from being out here in Los Angeles all these years, how crazy that is. But now you think about all these people 20 years later after the game came out, and they're still trying to be pickup coaches. I don't think being a pickup coach is a great way to make a lot of money right now, because it's like a flooded industry. And if you did a little bit of research, you would say, oh, okay, maybe this is not the right play for me. Maybe I should not be trying to do something that's already flooded. Or maybe I could put a little twist or a little spin to it. Like if somebody said, hey man, I want to create an incredible panel show in Los Angeles with a bunch of girls and guys, have interesting conversations, and then about intersectional dynamics. You know, there really isn't a great panel show in Los Angeles. Whatever podcast is in Santa Barbara, there's a few shows that are trying to do panels here, but like honestly, something like the size of whatever, or the size of Fresh and Fit, there's really nothing like that in Los Angeles. I've been trying to convince several of my friends to try to do a show like this here. The problem is getting studio time in Los Angeles is so expensive. A lot of them don't even want to try to do it. So could you find, first off, an industry or a place where there's a problem that isn't being solved? If you told me 7-8 years ago, hey, I want to sell solar, my response to you would be like, selling solar sounds like a great idea. But now I see so many people trying to do this, and it feels like that's saturated. You know, you guys also know the ultimate iteration, bottle service girls. They eventually, what do? They all become real estate agents, right? It's so funny because I had a friend of mine, she was a bottle service girl, and she just turned like 38. And she's like, okay, it's time for me to sell real estate. And she was joking, but no, she was serious. She went and got a real estate license. Man, we were walking straight up this hill. If you guys have been to Runyon Canyon, you know, you got to go straight up Fuller, and then you get into the canyon. So, and the problem is, what I would have advised her is to ask yourself, like, what percentage of people who are selling real estate right now actually are selling any real estate? And the answer is, guys, it's about 15% of real estate licenses, meaning the 15% of the people who have a license, sell 90% of the houses. There are way too many real estate agents right now. There are way too many people trying to be YouTube influencers right now. There are way too many people trying to go to law school. You see, there's some of these law schools that are letting people in that have low LSAT scores, and they're just letting them in and getting them law degrees and then charging them exorbitant amounts of money. But because the school has such a low accreditation, and because these LSAT scores are so low, these people are taking on massive amounts of debt because they didn't objectively look at the market that they were around, and they didn't realize how saturated that market is. I'm gonna tell you something right now, for those of you who are considering this. If 90% of the YouTube content creators went away, we'd have plenty of them. If 90% of actors disappeared tomorrow, we'd have plenty of actors. If 90% of attorneys, this is gonna be a big one, if 90% of attorneys disappeared tomorrow, we probably still have enough attorneys. All right, we don't have enough nurses or doctors, we don't have enough of them, but in these other areas, we've got plenty. So you need to ask yourself, okay, what kind of industry am I trying to break into? Am I gonna do Amazon FBA? I can tell you that would have been a lot easier back in the day. You'd probably do a little bit better investigating the market and saying, you know what? TikTok and Amazon Shop might be a better way for me to make money online than Amazon FBA. TikTok Shop is not saturated yet like Amazon FBA is. So this might be a consideration I would make. I still want to follow my dream. I still want to do e-commerce. I still made up my mind I don't want to go to college. But instead of just doing Amazon FBA like somebody told me, maybe I want to do TikTok Shop. You guys want to learn about that? Watch my episode with Weston Karika and Brandon McElroy. We talk about TikTok Shop. These guys are making like 10 million a month on TikTok Shop. So if you look at that, and you say, okay, what are the things that I'm trying to do? Okay, I hear some guys like, oh, I want to be Dan Bilzerian. Well, even Dan will tell you, he can't, if he had to start over today on Instagram, he's not going to get that level of traction. In part because Instagram, I'm sure you guys have seen this, Instagram is not rewarding that type of content anymore. That like lascivious type of content. I'd say from like 2014 all the way to like 2019, they were accepting of it, and then once the OnlyFans stuff started coming out, you started seeing them like suspending people's accounts like crazy. There's no way that you could make the content that Dan was making, because I think Dan was the first guy to 1 million followers. There's no way you could make that content again. So like, this goes back to what I said before. Jake and Logan Paul hit Vine at the right time, and it took off. Maybe some of you guys, I know I can't believe I'm saying this, but you know Blue Sky just came out. Maybe you need to get popular on Blue Sky. Maybe you guys need to try to get popular. Although I think TikTok is starting to slow down a little bit. Maybe you guys need to get popular on some other app. Anyway, the main point of what I said before, from the original point of this video was, you've started trying whatever it is that you believe you want to be successful at, and in the beginning you didn't get that response. You didn't get the success that you were looking for initially. It became very difficult for you because it felt like I said, you're throwing pebbles at an aircraft carrier. So what do? Do you give up? Do you reassess? Do you find mentors? Do you try to do anything differently? Do you try to work out hey, you know, this field may be super saturated, it may not be saturated. Do you find people who are already successful and ask them for advice? I'll tell you right now, man, for my company, one of the reasons why we were able to grow to 7 and then 8 figures so quickly was because for every step of the way, because of all the networking I'd done, I had someone that I could ask. And I've told you guys before my decision-making process. In my mind, and I'll even call these guys up, but I don't always have to. In my mind, I'll say, okay, I got Dan Fleischman here, Ty Lopez here, you know what I'm saying, Ryan Stewman, let's say Ryan Pineda, Brad Lee, you know, maybe I'm talking to Myron and Fresh, maybe I'm talking to Justin Waller, Brandon Carter, Greg O'Gallagher, these guys that are in this space, and I might ask them, you know, even Bilzerian, I'll ask them, in my mind, I'll be like, okay, low ticket offer, what should this be on? What is the problem that's not being solved? Mid ticket offer, what is the problem that's not being solved? How should I solve these problems? I'll talk to Cole Gordon. I mean, I'll either literally talk to them, or in my mind, I kind of know what they're going to say. This is another thing, guys. I'm going to do another video on this, but mapping someone else's personality in your mind, almost like artificial intelligence, but in your brain. There was a guy that I knew back in the day, I'm talking about 25 years ago, who was so good at talking to girls, I couldn't believe it. Like, he would go up, no fear, whatever. And what happened was, instead of me actually going up and just talking to girls, I kept thinking to myself, what would he do in this situation? So it's like, I was almost like mapping the artificial intelligence in my mind of what this other person would say. And a lot of my clients do that with me. They'll say, okay, what would Michael say in this situation? So I do that with a lot of my friends. I'm like, okay, what would they do in this decision-making matrix? When would they know to let this firm go, to fire them? When would they go to hire this person or let this other person go? When is it time to pivot? You know what Alex Hormozi says? He says more, better than new. So you need to do more first and then better and then switch to new. What a lot of people do, though, is they don't have some success with whatever they're doing. They don't try more and they don't try better. They just immediately switch to new. They're constantly switching. And because they keep switching, Alex has a bunch of really great videos on this. Because they keep switching strategy, they never get good enough at any one of these strategies to ever make it work. So this is another thing I want to explain to you guys. Like, you have to be willing to do enough research to know that your path forward is possible, and then be willing to put in enough work and take on enough criticism that no matter what anyone says to you, you are going to keep pushing no matter what. You're not going to sit there and listen to your fat aunt when you go back to Thanksgiving telling you that you shouldn't be a content creator, but instead what you should do is go back to college. You're going to have to learn to say, hey, when your girlfriend is like, hey, I'm sorry, but this is too risky. If your girlfriend leaves because you changed jobs, because you went off, followed your dream, she's doing you a favor, and you're doing her a favor too. And guys, here's the last thing I'm gonna tell you. Most of the time, you're gonna fail. No matter what it is, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you want that girl, no matter how much you want to explode and become super popular on YouTube, no matter how much you want whatever the success is, you want to make $10 million a month doing Amazon FBA or TikTok shop, being a real estate agent or selling solar, whatever it is, no matter how much, no matter how desperately you want to succeed at being a crypto influencer, no matter how much you want to do it. And by the way, the thing that makes this confusing is because you'll see these guys who tried their first time and were successful, and you're like, why can't that be me? But the reality situation is, every relationship you get into, every business you get into, I need you guys to understand this. This is the most important thing that I'm going to leave you with in this video before we get out of here, is that no matter how much you want it, most of the time, it's still not going to work. Most of the time, even when you meet the girl of your dreams, get the job of your dreams, start the business of your dreams, most of the time, more than 50% of the time, it's still not going to work. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. The first time I started my own business, it worked out. But a lot of times for people, it doesn't work out. About 38% of businesses last after 5 years. So I'm going to tell you this is the last part. When you try to follow your dream, and you work as hard as you can. You do all the things we talked about in this video. You find mentors, you figure out what your competition is, you figure out what's the problem that you're solving, you stop listening to the naysayers, you push through with your passion. You're like, hey, no matter what anybody says, I'm gonna make reaction videos on YouTube, I'm gonna do a panel show, I'm gonna do man on the street videos, I'm gonna sell Amazon FBA, I'm gonna become a fitness influencer. Whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you wanna do, more than 50% of the time, it's not gonna work out. And when it doesn't work out, this is the real trick. You're gonna be stoic about it. You're gonna look at that whole thing and just say, hey, listen, I'm gonna take my card out, spit on it, shine it up, and charge it to the game. Because the thing is like what Jocko Willink says, hey man, I made $1 million this week, good. Hey man, your wife left you, good. Hey man, you just got an incredible award, you're gonna go on this huge podcast, good. Hey man, turns out you got terminal cancer, good. No matter what happens, we are unaffected. We are unaffected. No matter what happens, we are unaffected, okay? If you truly want to get to your dreams, follow the directions that I just laid out for you today, right? Figure out what's the problem you're going to solve. Recognize when you don't have success early on, it should not discourage you. What are your mentors and your instructions that you're going to find, either the mentors in real life or mentors you can hire or books that you can read to show you how to get to that path the quickest. Do you have a feedback loop when people are people who actually know what they're talking about are telling you that you're doing something wrong so that you can change what you're doing? Can you stick with what you're doing and not keep switching up strategies every time, even though you know this other strategy works, it didn't work for you, so you just give up? Can you stop from giving up? And most importantly, when you fail, can you handle that failure with present moment awareness and stoicism and just say, good, it doesn't really affect me, it doesn't really bother me. If you can do that, it's going to take a couple of tries. For most of you, some of you are going to hit it on the first try. Some of you on the first try, you're going to become an incredible coach on YouTube, and you're going to be, oh, I remember that one video Michael Sartain told me when he was walking in Runyon Canyon. But most of you, it's going to take several tries. I was reading somewhere the average millionaire doesn't get his first million until he's 47 years old. Listen, I'm going to do another video on this, guys. I am 47 years old. Most of them, the people that I hang out with in a social situation are younger than me, and most of most of the people that I look to for his help, for his business, are around a little bit younger than me, around my same age. A few of them are older than me. But I'm going to tell you, man, 47 years old, I've never felt stronger. I've never been stronger. I've never had more women attracted to me. I've never made more money at 47. So I want to let you guys know, it's not over for you just because you guys are watching this. And maybe you've gone bankrupt in your 30s. Maybe you got divorced. Maybe you have a woman zero you out. Maybe you had, you're not able to see your kids. You lost your dream job. All these things happen. Maybe you got injured at work. All these things happen to you in your 30s and 40s, and you're like, hey man, it's over for me. I'm here to let you know at 47, my life is just beginning, and I'm here to take that journey with you. And I'm excited to do this with you in the future. I'll see you in the next video.